Mercy Hill Hospital stood on a lonely hill, watching over our town like a silent stone monster. It had been closed for 50 years, maybe more. The windows were like empty, staring eyes, all boarded up and dark. Paint peeled from the walls in long, curling strips, like sunburnt skin. Everyone in town had a story about Mercy Hill. They said you could hear strange noises at night. They whispered about shadows that danced in the windows, even though the hospital had no power. They called it the sickest place in town, and not because it used to be a hospital. It was a place where bad things happened, and everyone knew to stay far, far away. My friends, Leo and Mia, didn't believe the stories. Leo was the brave one, always looking for the next big adventure. Mia was the smart one, always filming everything for her documentary channel. She thought the stories were just old town myths, perfect for a spooky video. "It's just an old building," Leo had said, puffing out his chest. "What's the worst that could happen?" I didn't want to go, I really didn't. My stomach felt like it was full of jumpy frogs just thinking about it, but I didn't want to look like a scaredy cat. So I agreed. One night, just as the sun began to set, we stood at the bottom of the hill, staring up at the dark shape of Mercy Hill. The plan was simple. We would sneak in, film some spooky footage for Mia's documentary, and be home before our parents even knew we were gone. Mia held her camera, its little red light already blinking. Leo had a backpack filled with flashlights and snacks, as if we were going on a picnic instead of into a haunted hospital. I just had my phone and a heart that was beating way too fast. "Ready for this?" Mia whispered, her eyes wide with excitement. I wasn't ready, not at all. The wind whistled through the broken fences, and it sounded like it was whispering a warning. Go back, go back. We found a broken window on the ground floor. Its glass shattered long ago. The opening was dark, like a mouth waiting to swallow us whole. Leo, of course, climbed in first without a second thought. "It's fine," he called out, his voice echoing strangely from inside. "Just a little dusty." Mia followed him, her camera pointed forward, capturing every creepy detail. I took a deep breath, the air smelling of old leaves and something else, something sour and sick. I squeezed through the window, my jacket snagging on a rusty nail. And just like that, we were inside Mercy Hill. The door to the outside world was gone, and only darkness lay ahead. The inside of the hospital was even worse than the outside. The air was thick and heavy, and it smelled like medicine and dust and decay. Our flashlight beams cut through the darkness, revealing long, empty hallways. Peeling wallpaper showed old, faded clowns and cartoon animals, which was supposed to be cheerful, but was now just creepy. Doors to old patient rooms stood open, showing empty metal bed frames covered in rust. Every step we took echoed loudly in the silence. The silence itself was strange. It wasn't just quiet, it was a heavy, like listening kind of quiet. It felt like the whole building was holding its breath, waiting for us to make a wrong move. We started on the first floor. Mia filmed everything, her quiet commentary a nervous whisper in the dark. "We're now in the children's wing," she said to her camera. "Locals say you can still hear laughter here. We didn't hear laughter. We heard something else. A faint scratching sound. Scritch, scratch, scrape." It seemed to come from inside the walls, moving along with us as we walked down the hall. Leo tried to be brave. "It's just rats," he said, but his voice was a little shaky. "Big rats." But it didn't sound like rats. It sounded bigger. It sounded like long fingernails dragging against wood. Then we saw the mirrors. The hallways were lined with them. Big, round mirrors, with cloudy, dark spots. I hated them. When I looked into one, my reflection looked wrong. It was me, but my eyes looked darker and my smile was more like a grimace. I quickly looked away, but Mia, ever the filmmaker, pointed her camera at one. "Look at this," she whispered. In the reflection on her camera screen, behind our own reflections, we saw something move. It was just a flicker, a dark shape that darted out of sight before we could really see it. "Did you see that?" I stammered, pointing a trembling finger. Leo just gulped. We decided to head upstairs, away from the scratching and the creepy mirrors. The stairs groaned under our weight, each step a loud complaint in the dead quiet. The second floor was the adult ward. It was colder up here, so much colder. I could see my breath in the flashlight beam. The rooms were the same, just with bigger beds, but in one room we found something that made us freeze. On a dusty bedside table, a single word was written in the thick layer of dust. It was written in a shaky, messy script. The word was, "Get out." We all stared at it, our flashlights trembling. Who wrote that? And how recently? The dust around it was completely undisturbed. We should have listened to the warning. We should have turned around and run right out of that hospital. But Leo, trying to shake off the fear, just laughed. "Someone's trying to prank us," he insisted. But he didn't sound convinced. "Come on, the top floor is supposed to be the scariest. That's the money shot for your movie, Mia." He was talking about the last floor. The story said it was the psychiatric ward, a place where the sickest patients were kept. They said nobody ever left the last floor. I felt a cold dread creep up my spine. I didn't want the money shot. I wanted my warm, safe bed at home. The stairs to the third floor were blocked by a huge, fallen cabinet. We couldn't get past it. "See? It's a dead end," I said, my voice full of relief. "Let's just go back down." But then Mia spotted it. A small service elevator at the far end of the hall. Its metal doors were covered in rust and scratches. A sign next to it read, "Danger, do not use." Leo walked right up to it and pushed the call button. Nothing happened. "Told you," I said. But then, with a horrible groaning sound, the old elevator shuddered. A single dim light flickered on above the door. The doors slowly creaked open, revealing a dark, coffin-sized box. "No way," I whispered. "There's no power in this building. How is that working?" Mia had her camera pointed right at it, her face a mix of fear and fascination. "This is amazing," she breathed. Leo was already stepping inside. "It's the only way up," he said with a shrug. "Are you coming or not?" I hesitated. Everything about this felt wrong. The warning in the dust, the moving shadow in the mirror, and now this ghost elevator. But I couldn't let my friends go alone. Taking a deep breath, I followed Mia into the cramped metal box. The air inside was stale and smelled faintly of bleach. The doors slid shut with a loud clang, plunging us into almost total darkness. The only light was the dim bulb above us, which flickered on and off, on and off. Leo pushed a button with a faded number 4 on it. The elevator lurched upwards with a sickening jolt, its cables groaning and creaking like an old man's bones. It was a slow, terrifying ride. With every floor we passed, a loud ding echoed in the tiny space. Ding. The second floor, ding, the third floor, but then it kept going. Ding. A floor we didn't know existed. The elevator finally shuddered to a stop. The doors slid open, not to a dark, dusty floor, but to a hallway that was brightly lit and perfectly clean. We stepped out of the elevator and into a nightmare. This wasn't the 4th floor. A pristine sign on the wall read the last floor. It was impossible. The rest of the hospital was falling apart, but this floor looked brand new. The white linoleum floors gleamed under bright, humming fluorescent lights. There was no dust, no decay, no smell of old medicine. It smelled clean, like a hospital that was still running. All the patient room doors were closed. The beds we could see through the small windows in the doors were all perfectly made, with crisp white sheets and fluffed pillows. It was terrifyingly, unnervingly normal. "Where is the power coming from?" Mia whispered, slowly panning her camera down the spotless hallway. The silence here was different too. It wasn't the heavy, waiting silence from downstairs. It was a sterile, empty silence that felt even more threatening. "This is a trick," Leo said, his voice barely a whisper. "It has to be." He walked over to a door and tried the handle. It was locked. He tried another. Locked. Every single door on the last floor was locked tight. We were in a long, wide, silent hallway with no way out except for the elevator we came in on. And I had a very bad feeling about that elevator. Suddenly, a sound shattered the silence, a loud, piercing scream. It came from behind one of the locked doors, a scream of pure terror that made my blood run cold. Then another scream and another coming from different rooms, overlapping into a horrible chorus of pain and fear. We all jumped, huddling together in the middle of the hall. The screaming stopped as abruptly as it began, leaving us in that awful, humming silence again. "Okay," I said, my voice trembling so hard I could barely speak. "Time to go now." We all turned and ran back toward the elevator, but as we reached it, the doors slid shut with a final, decisive clang. Leo pounded on the metal doors, shouting. Nothing happened. The call button wouldn't light up. We were trapped on the last floor with the screaming rooms and the humming lights. It was then that I saw the mirror. At the very end of the hall was another one of those cloudy, round mirrors. I stared at it, my heart pounding against my ribs. In its reflection, I could see the three of us, scared, trapped, and standing right behind us, a tall, shadowy figure with long, spindly arms and eyes that glowed like faint red lights. I screamed and spun around. There was nothing there, just the empty white hallway. "What? What is it?" Leo yelled, his face pale. I pointed a shaky finger back at the mirror. There was something right behind us. We all looked back at the mirror. The reflection showed just the three of us, again, alone in the hallway, but the figure was gone. Was I seeing things? My mind felt like it was playing tricks on me, but the fear was real. It was a cold, sharp thing that twisted in my gut. The lights above us began to flicker wildly, buzzing like angry insects. Then, all at once, every door down the hallway flew open with a deafening bam. We stared into the now open rooms. They were all empty. The perfectly made beds were still there, antochi, orosar, intoi tu, keis. The cold wind rushed out of the rooms, carrying a faint whisper that seemed to slither around us. Stay with us." Leo, trying to be brave, took a step toward one of the open doors. "Hello?" he called out. As he stepped across the threshold, the door slammed shut with incredible force, trapping him inside. Mia and I screamed his name, pounding on the heavy door, but it wouldn't budge. We could hear him shouting for help from the other side, his voice getting fainter and fainter until it was gone. Panic took over. Mia and I ran. We didn't know where we were going. We just ran, away from the door that swallowed Leo, away from the whispering rooms. We found a fire exit at the end of another corridor, its door miraculously unlocked. We burst through it and scrambled down a rusty metal fire escape, not stopping until our feet hit the damp grass outside. We didn't look back. We just ran and ran until the monster of Mercy Hill was just a dark shape against the night sky. Mia was gone. In the chaos of the escape, she had disappeared. I was alone. I made it home, collapsing in my room, shaking and crying. I never told anyone what really happened. Who would believe me? Days later, my hands finally stopped trembling enough for me to look at my phone. I had dozens of missed calls from Leo's and Mia's parents, and I had one new video file, something I didn't remember taking. My finger hovered over the play button, my heart hammering. I pressed it. The video was shaky, filmed from my pocket as we stood on the last floor. I could see my own shoes, hear our terrified whispers. Then the camera angle shifted, pointing up for just a second. The video froze on the last frame. It was a clear shot of my own face, looking terrified. And right behind my shoulder, grinning into the camera, was the creature from the mirror.